Hi, Johnny.
Hey, Jess.
Are we ready for this?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know.
There's no time like present,
Okay.
right?
What are we going to talk about today?
I thought we would talk about a follow-up on the Cholesteatoma episode that just came out not that long ago, but I actually shot that back in November, I think.
Okay.
So,
Say it again. Slow down.
Cholesteatoma.
Cholesteatoma.
Close enough, because I don't even know if I'm saying it
Okay.
right. Yeah, so our oldest daughter's had cholesteatoma on her left ear since she was probably 5 or so, maybe 4 when we discovered it. And the only treatment is surgery.
Okay.
If you want the details, it's in the cholesteatoma episode previously. Um, and yeah, it's the only treatment is surgery, and it's not cancer, but it's kind of like cancer in that even if like a little tiny bit is left behind, it grows again.
Right.
So, and in her case, it's been particularly aggressive, and from the very beginning, she's had to have a surgery pretty much every year.
Wow.
It might be like 13 months or so here and there, but it's every year since, like I said, she was like 5 or so. She's had to go under general anesthesia. They slice off the back of her ear, yank it forward, and dig around in her head and sew it all back together.
So what are the consequences of not operating? Obviously it's growing, but
Mm-hmm. So in her case, it had been in there growing long enough before we found out about it that it ate through the skull bone and was sitting on top of the I'm not gonna pronounce it right, carotid artery.
carotid artery.
Yeah, which is like one of the major
Yes.
arteries in your head or brain or whatever. Um, so if left untreated, it will just grow and grow. And in her case, ate away at skull bone. It can affect blood vessels. Like if it got untreated, it would have, who knows if she would have like had some sort of internal bleeding or whatever. There's been reports of folks that have nerve damage as a result of it. So it'll look like, if someone has a stroke, that like half of their face
Yeah.
might look kind of droopy,
Mhm.
scenarios like that. It absolutely affects your hearing. So in another instance, after it recurred, it the 3 little tiny bones inside your ear.
Mhm.
The the middle one, it had eaten away at that. So when they did that particular surgery to remove the cholesteatoma, they put in like a titanium implant bone.
Oh, wow.
Which I didn't even know they made implants that tiny. But
No.
she had one of those for a number of years, and I think it was probably a year or 2 years afterwards when it recurred again. It wrapped itself around the prosthetic bone, so they
Oh, my
had to remove
goodness.
that. So now she's at a gap, in that 3 chain of bones in her ear. That middle one's missing because we're like, let's not even bother trying to replace it with a prosthetic until we
Right.
figure out what the heck's going on. And yeah, I mean, and it, like I said, it affects hearing. So she's had over the ear hearing aids on both sides, actually. We started those back in kindergarten, actually.
So 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, not the same ones, but yes.
Yeah.
Um, and she has holes in her eardrums as a result, so she always has to have earplugs when she goes to the bath or shower or swimming or anything like that. And it's just there's a lot of stuff that comes along.
So what did she have any complaints that led you to no complaints? So no pain.
Well, wait, sorry, let me think. Because this was a long time ago. There's 5 kids. Right? She had trouble hearing. The problem was we thought she had trouble hearing, so we took her to an audiologist or ENT, and they couldn't find anything, so they ended up doing a CT scan
Okay.
initially, and that showed something odd. and then the at least for us, the the main way of detecting it is an MRI, not a CT scan. So
Okay.
after we got the CT scan that showed weirdness, they did an MRI. And all this, she was young enough back then that all this was sedated. So sedated CT, sedated MRI.
Mhm.
And they're like, yeah, this is what we think it is. So off to surgery we went, and we've been doing that ever since.
And do they biopsy the tissue when they remove it?
So I don't think so. I've never
Okay.
seen it. At least I've never seen any reports of a biopsy.
So is it like what you would consider a textbook case for this, or is
For hers, no. I mean, I've there's a cholesteatoma group on Facebook. So if anyone is looking for resources to support, I suggest going there. There's a very large community.
good call out?
Thanks. Um, and the kind of anecdotally, people report, and this is kids up to adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
People report, oh, I was like one and done, one surgery, and I've been, cholesteatoma free for years. There's been people who say, okay, I had to have 2, 3, some people report like kids having like 5 or so. And then other people say, okay, I had a surgery or 2, and then I went 5 years and then came back. Um, I'm not going to say she's the only one, but it seems pretty unique in that hers is so aggressive that it's like every year.
Right.
And the size, the growth rate is such that they don't want to wait like another year. So it's like, oh, every other year we'll do a surgery. It's big enough that it's like, we should take it out.
So is the cholesteatoma, is it a spontaneous growth? Is that because if there are other people who have dealt with this, or I'm sure are probably searching, "Ow, that hurts." They're probably seeing this episode as someone who may have that particular symptoms or that particular diagnosis, or have had that surgery. But within our group, is that a common finding, or is it more spontaneous? Or
I don't think you mean the KDM5C context?
correct?
I don't think it's common necessarily.
Okay.
In fact, I haven't heard of any others that have it. The closest is one mom who I won't mention their name just because I don't know if they want to be called out or not, but you know of her and her daughter too, who was very interested when I said that our daughter had, because her daughter had, I don't think it was the same thing, but had other things going on that were very similar. It could. So I mean, the way my understanding from her second egg.
We have an interrupting.
The way it was described to me by her second ENT surgeon, because she's had many, is that the way cholesteatoma occurs is it is a skin cell inside your ear finds a blood supply and can grow.
Okay.
That's how he described it, as how it starts. In her case, so she was born with bilateral cleft palate also. So her station tubes are both blocked. Why she had ear tubes when she was young. So I mean, it could be an artifact of those surgeries, but who knows? No one. There's no way to know, right? For sure.
Okay.
All we know is where we're at and how aggressive it's been. It's going back. And she has to go to general anesthesia and have surgery once a year.
Well, now that she's verbal and she understands that she's having surgery, she's had this done several times, does she still typically present like no symptoms? You're just going in to
we're just going
have it checked.
Well, I mean, except for the hearing part. I mean, she has hearing issues regardless, so that's not a good indicator for us anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Aside from that,
but she doesn't come to you and say like, "Oh, I'm having trouble hearing in this ear," or
no. I mean, she always has trouble.
It's but
there's no like, oh, my ear hurts, or I'm hearing weird noises, or
nothing like that.
Kind of stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And she's the only one of 5.
Yes, that we know of. Yeah.
Okay. And what about recovery for her? What does that look like? Does because I know who we're talking about, and I've met her in person. I know her. She's not one to complain, at least not in front of me. Um, and I can't imagine that she would. It's kind of one of those things, like again with our kids, and which in a lot of cases with kids with special needs, you're tracking and following something that is either asymptomatic or you're unaware of the symptoms, or you're following up because you know that you have to do it. And if you don't do it and it goes unchecked, then you end up in a situation like when the first time you went. But knowing that I know this girl and that she's not one to complain about things, and not, if you chose not to have this monitored every year, every
6 months.
6 months, um, she's probably not going to say anything. So how does she handle the procedure itself and post-op?
I mean, like I said, this all started when she was really little. So when she was little, she didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
All she knew is I was waking her up before the sun was up, and she got to go in the car and go somewhere with dad, and she was all like, "Okay, I'm going somewhere with dad." And then and that worked maybe the first time for sure, maybe the first 2 times.
Okay.
And then after that, she figured out what was going on, and I could get her in the car because it's like, okay, I just woke her up. She's little. I can carry her to the car and put her in the car seat, strap her in. But when we got to the hospital or the surgery center or whatever, I could not get her out of the car. Okay.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, of course, of course. And then I don't know at what age that changed, but the way it is today, um, we don't have those challenges so much. It's more of like, oh, I hate surgery. I don't want to do a surgery. But, you can explain it and rationalize, well, if you don't do it, then, this happens. So she does it. And as far as you asked about recovery, so as far as recovery, I mean, post-op is whatever post-op is, depends on each situation. But for her experience, if I were to try and put myself in her shoes, um, I mean, she just moved the camera. Despite the fact that they're like literally doing an incision from the top of her ear down the back to the bottom.
Yep.
And then pulling the whole thing forward and like scooping around and drilling or whatever they do inside of her head and skull, and then stitching it back on. And she's got these nasty Frankenstein stitches and stuff behind it. And they prescribe, as you can imagine, some pretty hefty painkillers, for after you go home. She never takes them. Just like not even Tylenol.
Wow.
No pain medication whatsoever. The thing she complains about the most post-op in recovery is after surgery, they have this little plastic cup.
Yep.
With holes, kind of like a half a Nerf ball type of thing, and they fill it with gauze, and it's got this Velcro strap. They put that on your ear, they strap it around your head, and it's there primarily, I think, for sleeping. So if you're like tossing and turning, whatever, you don't like do something and open the incision.
Yep.
Her biggest gripe before surgery and obviously after is, I don't want to wear the stupid cup on my head.
Yes.
And I mean that's what she complains about. Of all the stuff, that's what she complains about.
That's so interesting to me. And I haven't had that exact procedure done, but I did have a sigmoid diverticulum and I heard my heartbeat in my ear. So they go in and fix that.
Yeah.
Essentially the same way. They cut behind my ear, they took my ear off, they drill into the skull, they cauterize the vessel, and then do a bone graft, and then they put everything back on, and I go home with the cup over my ear. And for me, I was in pain. Like I took pain medicine, and I'm like, this is mildly uncomfortable. Now, I would never want to have that procedure done again unless I absolutely needed it, right? Because as soon as I woke up, the sound was gone. But for her to not complain about it, I mean, with any surgical procedure, like generally there's some soreness or something a day or two after, and some bruising. But I agree with her. I do think the cup is absolutely annoying. And I put like a little tie-dye. We have a visitor. I agree, but I still was in some pain after that procedure, and it's still uncomfortable. Like, I remember feeling some pain in my ear. Oh, hi. I remember hearing or just like experiencing some pain in my ear, but nothing excruciating, but it's more annoying than it is painful, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm not saying she's not, but like if I say, oh,
No.
is it bothering you? Do you want some pain medicine? Well, and I mean, and this is through the years. I mean, nowadays because she's 15, the pain code is they prescribe her pills.
Uh-huh.
When she was younger, it was liquid, so it's not like a pill versus liquid thing. It's just she don't want it. No thanks.
She's a tough cookie too, though. So this is our update from your most recent appointment. And what did they find at the?
So the surgery was early last year. The latest surgery was early last year. So we did the MRI. I try because this is like now a routine for us. I try and do the surgeries. Um, I try and do an MRI and a surgery in the same calendar year, and I try and do the surgery towards possible just because insurance deductibles, all that kind of junk, right? In this case, we couldn't get in at the end of the year, so it was like January last year. So we did the MRI in November, and okay, it's back. And the radiologist like, okay, this is how big it is, and X, Y, Z axis, all that kind of stuff. And then talking with the ENT, historically, what we would do is we would say, okay, it's pretty large because it is. I don't remember the exact dimension, but I want to say it's something on the order of like 15 by 17 by 19 millimeters in each direction. He's like, well, let's rather than doing surgery right away, maybe we monitor it to see how what happens. So we're like, okay, we'll do an MRI in like 4 months or something. And the results of that, in terms of again the radiologist measuring the size of it on the MRI, it's almost identical. I mean, there's maybe a millimeter of growth on one dimension, but it's almost identical to the size it was in November. Which, should be good news, I guess, or is good news. But I'm skeptical just because I'm used to 10 years of history where this thing is not only has grown back every year, but the growth rate is so aggressive. Why all of a sudden did it grow and stop? Right? I mean, this doesn't make sense. So we're talking about it in the appointment yesterday, right? Yesterday was the appointment. He's like, well, maybe it's bumping up against bone and doesn't know where to go. And I'm like, well, isn't that bad because this is what happened when we first found it. So where we left things was that we'll go back and he examines, he looks in her ears, both ears, but looks in the cholesteatoma ear with the microscope and everything in the office. And everything looked okay for her. For her normal state, it looked okay. So we kind of left it, okay, we'll come back in August. So another 4 months-ish, 5 months-ish from now. Clean things out, look at it again, and then do an MRI, and then at that point decide if we're going to do surgery right away or give it a few more months or whatever.
Right.
Like I said, which should be, I mean, finding out your child does not have to have surgery should be good news.
Well, after you've not heard that for 10 years, though, makes you skeptical.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes, because it's like, oh, it's the same as it was back in November. I'm like, yeah, right. Right? I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
Well, it's almost more, unfortunately for us, it almost provides more peace of mind to hear consistency, even though it means surgery. Like, you obviously don't want her to have surgery. However,
of course.
when we hear that things are consistent, it provides more comfort than the unknown. And there's so much that's unknown for us. It's kind of like, okay, well, now do we need to check every 3 months? Do we need to watch it every month? We definitely don't want to wait longer because that's going to create anxiety for you, not necessarily her.
Right.
And it's interesting that these type random occurrences create that kind of situation for us as parents and caregivers. But I guess we'll have to stay tuned for.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, and the last, I guess, the last piece of it, kind of what I mentioned in the original Cholesteatoma video before was, since she is 15, so there's two ways to do the surgery, two primary ways to do the surgery. One is do what they've been doing, slice your ear off, scoop stuff out of your head, and sew it back together. Or there's what they call a canal wall down version, um, which, as I described to her yesterday, after the doctor's appointment, is they do the same thing, clean it out, but then they also, the ear hole from the outside of your head going in, they make it the diameter a little bit bigger. Not this day, that's like an exaggeration, but they make it bigger.
Good.
So that in theory, if it grows back, they can clean it out and remove it from the outside without doing surgery in the ENT's office.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's no guarantees that it won't grow in such a way that they have to do surgery again anyways.
Right.
But the idea is that, okay, I can do that instead. The downside, and why we haven't done that yet, is one, because the hole in your head for your ear is bigger. It presents even greater challenges with keeping water out during bathing or swimming, and she's a fish. Yeah, she swims any chance she gets. And we don't want to take that away from her, right, growing up. And you have to go in once, probably twice in her case, a year to the ENT to do this cleaning. So it's like, in doing so, you're basically signing up for a lifetime of once or twice a year ENT visits to have them vacuum out the crap in your head.
That sounds amazing, actually. Not for her.
Well,
from my perspective. I wouldn't want to have it done though.
Yeah. Then why are you saying it sounds amazing?
Well, because I don't know.
There you go.
My ears would feel like clean, not that they feel dirty.
Well, you should see how he does it. Then you'll maybe have a second.
Yeah, hard pass.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I saying? So anyway, so like I explained a little bit in the prior Cholesteatoma episode. Now that she's 15, I think she's old enough that we could talk about the two options.
Yeah.
And maybe with some guidance, let her decide what she wants to do for herself.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about that, on the drive home from the doctor's office yesterday, and she was absolutely good with the idea of like, oh, I don't have to. If I do that, I don't have to have surgeries afterwards. But to you're like, oh, that'd be amazing. Knowing that she'd have to have the clean out stuff in the office once or twice a year, pretty much, well, not pretty much, forever. Because even if the cholesteatoma doesn't come back, you have this big hole in the side of your head and no eardrums, so crap's going to go in there anyway.
Yeah.
And has to be cleaned out. That part she wasn't so thrilled with. So where we left it was, we'll me telling her, well, just think about it. If you have questions or want to talk about it, let me know and we can talk about it. But we'll see how the appointment goes in August, and then go from there.
Okay.
So
more to come on that.
Yes.
When we chatted earlier this week, and even today when we started our episode, we've not been doing our struggle, strive, and thrive.
You're right.
So.
Oh no.
You're up first.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Thinking of why I could have thought of something.
Right.
Struggle. So
Daniel Tiger.
I mean, I'll take.
Can you say hi to everybody?
I'm gonna take the
look at the camera and say hi.
Struggle this week has been disappointment and having to explain various surgical options to. I mean, even though she's 15, I'll say to a child. Right?
Mm-hmm.
because that's never an easy thing, because you
Right.
can tell they have apprehension, or nervous or scared. Um, no one wants to see their kid or child in that
Yeah.
mindset. Um, at the same time, I'd say our strive for success was getting past that initial uh, apprehension, nervousness, and whatnot. She did engage and she did ask a couple questions, and you could tell she was kind of thinking about thinking about it, getting some thought.
Right.
Um, which was pretty cool because I mean, that, like I said, up to date, we didn't want to make that decision for her and take away, swimming and those sorts of things. Kind of holding out hope that, oh yeah, maybe this next surgery will be successful. Maybe this next one will be successful, right? Um, but since that doesn't seem like it's going to be in the cards, the fact that she's, as I'd hoped, now old enough to ask the questions and understand what the options are, and hopefully make an informed decision, again with guidance, right, for herself. That was pretty cool.
I would, maybe not a topic for today, but down the road is I would really love to get your take on how she has learned to manage things for herself over the years. Like we had this conversation recently as it pertained to IEPs and functionally what are some of the goals and aspirations that we have for our kids. Well, along the same lines, like medically, should she decide at some point or hope that she's able to live on her own and hold down a job and work, is her medical care something? Oh, my toe. Is her medical care something that you think you're confident that she'll be able to manage and take care of, or will she probably need some assistance with that? Like, is this something because she's had it done every year, like come January, is she thinking, oh, every year about this time exactly. So I'm curious to see, like, with some of these things, with some of these appointments, how our kids are incredibly resilient, but are they, I know Avery remembers when we've gone to the same place. Now you said she's had several ENTs, so you know, ow, going to a different place, she probably isn't picking up on. Uh, we have lots of things going on today, so I'm a little distracted.
Pills and cell phones flying every which way.
And a puppy biting us, who's wiped out now. Um. Anyway, so later date, but that was your struggle, strive, and thrive.
Yeah, well, struggle and then strive for success.
Yeah. Hi.
I'll take one of those three.
Okay.
How about you?
No, sir. My struggle lately has been sleep, honestly. So if I seem a little scatterbrained today, I probably am. Because for anyone who knows me, you know that I struggle with sleep in general anyway, but I just don't feel rested here lately. So I need to practice some good sleeping habits. Um, my strive is like we're kind of getting our studio together, at least this studio, and it feels good. But every time we get something done, I'm like, okay, and we could do this, and we could do this, and I'm like, all right, we've got to, um,
That's right. I mean, when you remodel an old house,
yes,
like you want to room, it's like, oh, that's great. But now I can see how much this room needs it and that room needs it, right?
yeah,
Now they get one thing. It's like, okay, the next thing.
yes,
Like this wall may look different next time.
yeah, and I will say um we got some pretty exciting things in the works, things to share with the community, top topics of conversations, and that's where I'll leave my thrive. Is we're a small but mighty community, and we love the interaction, we love the direction where things are going. We love our little interruptions coming in and breaking up me and Johnny talking, buddy. Uh, Maybe not the noisy barking one so much, but our thrive is just to continue to see this community grow and evolve and see where it takes us.
Yep.
So,
For sure.
signing off today.
Yeah. See you guys
Until next time. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Bag your towel. Fade out.
Ooh.